Dear guests, finally, we're about to start this great evening. First and foremost, I should just thank all of you to be with us tonight at the very first day of the second series, which we started this year. Last year we had 6 of them, as you remember, and I think this year it will be better. By your presence, by your support, we appreciate that. But we're here together tonight to celebrate many things. You know, first and foremost, this is the Black History Month, if I'm not mistaken, right, Lonnie? So this is so important. Why is this is extremely important for many reasons. This is important for the history of the United States. This is important for the history of the city. This is important for the history of Turkish-American relations. And fourthly, this is important for the history of this magnificent residence. Why? This residence, many of you might know, 95 years old. 95 years old. So we never remembered those days or those years when it comes to the age of any lady. But for the buildings, we should remember in order to respect. First and foremost, I should welcome and recognize some of our distinguished guests tonight. Our co-host, Congressman Conyers. Sir, thank you very much. Congressman Conyers, when we started this jazz series a year ago, almost more than a year ago, I just visited him in his office. You remember, Mr. Congressman? He looked at me, he said, I mean, this is an ambassador coming just to invite me to one of regular, events. So he was a little bit skeptical, I mean, to be honest. And then I convinced him to come and visit us and to have a lunch, and he agreed. And then when he came and we told him the story, then he was really, I think he was convinced that we were doing something very special. And then, of course, we have another congressman, Congressman McDermott. Thank you, sir, also for being with us tonight. And actually, both congressmen, they have been with us before, and this is not the first time, so we're very much thankful to them for their support. And we have 2 ambassadors, lady ambassadors from the State Department, who are close friends of our embassy and my personal friends, and I'm thankful to them. Ambassador Cook, Ambassador Jenkins, thank you for being with us tonight. And of course, when you have 2 lady ambassadors from the United States, of course we thought we should respond to that by somewhat, I mean, doing something and making some of our, or one of our lady ambassadors, one of the most qualified, most talented ambassadors. She's our ambassador to Portugal. And good thing is that She is presently actually the Director General for Americas, so that's why she's here. Our minister was here, but it was a very nice coincidence, so we're thankful to her. And we have also Lonnie Hunch. Lonnie is a very, very good friend of ours. We've had another lunch with him, and he has his own stories about this building and the history of Turkish African-American relationship and everything. Lonnie is very soon, I think, he has been the chairman, like the president or whatever, of the African American Museum, which is going to be established very soon, started in the mall. And we have another lady of distinguished stature. She is our honorary consul in Georgia, and she is she's a very, very, I think, close friend of ours. She is very supportive, and please also join me in giving a big hand. And of course, we cannot do it alone. We have our sponsors. Last year it was, maybe you would remember, it was Boeing. This year we couldn't convince them I think, to join us again for different reasons. I don't want to go into details, but anyway, this house has a lot of, I think, relevance to one iconic American companies, that's Coca-Cola. Because the first ambassador in 1927, when the relationship restarted in 1927, was the grand uncle of the present CEO of Coca-Cola, Muhtar Kent, who happens to be a very close friend of mine. And actually his name was Ahmet Muhtar. So there is always a Muhtar somewhere there. So actually Muhtar couldn't make it tonight, and they are our sponsors, and really I think we're tremendously grateful to them. And we have one of Muhtar's very, very favorite deputies or assistants or whatever you say, the deputy CEO, Clyde. Thank you, Clyde. We'll try to do everything possible to, I think, to keep them on board, because they have the money. Actually, thank you so much, Clyde. And he flew all the way from Atlanta, Washington, for this night. Thank you. And finally, of course, our permanent sponsor, the Jazz at Lincoln Center in New York, and they've, well, we cannot thank them enough. I mean, because if we don't have any jazz players here, so we'll just look at each other, that's all. So, thank you, Kat. Thank you. Tonight, well, there is a long story of this house. I won't, again, I've told this several times, maybe some of you might not have heard. One specific you know, an episode of history about this house. When segregation was at its height in this town, 1940s, the then ambassador had two sons. His name was Mehmet bin Ertegün. The son's name were, of course, he had a daughter. I mean, this is also very important. But he had two sons. Two sons were teenagers, and they, at the time, I mean, with all due respect to all our American friends, was not quite pleasant to make friendships with the African American here. But that was in our culture. The culture, the heritage and everything of the Turks. They developed so great friendships with the African American community of this time. And they started inviting them to, because they were all jazz musicians, like Duke Ellington, Sammy Davis Jr., Ray Charles, Ruth Brown, and so on and so forth. So many very important names. They were nobody then. They were friends of our ambassador's sons. And that son, I mean, that one of the sons was Ahmet Ertegün, the other one was Nesri Ertegün, who happened to establish this Atlantic Records music company later on, 1947. And so they started inviting the African American musicians together with the others, you know, the whites, and jazz jam sessions were very popular in this house. And of course it attracted some negative attention. Again, with all due respect to all the Congress and senators and everybody. But one of the senators from the South wrote to our ambassador. He said, "Mr. Ambassador, I pass by your embassy every single day on my way to the Congress, and I see so many black people, you know, coming in and out through the front door. And what is this? I mean, is this true? What I see? This shouldn't be the treatment that they should receive." And our ambassador wrote back and responded very courageously. "I don't know whether I would do or I would dare to do the same thing if I were the ambassador at the time." But he said, "Yes, Mr. Senator, what you have seen is true and absolute truth, because it is our tradition to host our friends through our front door. That's why you see so many black people. I mean, they're our friends, so they come on in and out and this and that." I said, "If you happen to come one day to be our guests, we'll be honored, or more than honored. But you should know we will host you through our back door." So that's the courageous letter he wrote back. And there are some others, some other episodes of this whole story by Lonnie. I just respectfully ask him to tell you his story, and I think he's going to tell you the story. It's important. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, there are many things to tell you, but I don't want to steal much of your time. Let me just stop myself here, because nobody can stop me except my wife. I was a spokesperson for many years, so I like speaking. But before closing up, I should tell you how much we're grateful to our better halves, the ladies. And I should also just express my very warm feelings about this Valentine's Day. And I express our congratulations to all of you, all the ladies. First and foremost, my wife. Thank you again. And I should also thank my staff who worked diligently to put this whole event together, starting from John. John, just stand up and... This young man is behind everything. So, lastly, what I was looking at is we have tonight a great jazz trumpeter join us this evening. This is Roy Hargrove and his quintet. And I'm sure Roy will tell you he has a unique connection to this series, and Ertegün brothers. We will expect him to tell that story. So I think we couldn't be happier to have him join us on this most special evening. And before I think I leave the floor, I think I should invite some of our distinguished guests to say a few words about this evening, the series, and their stories. Thank you very much again.